Turn that tennis match clap into a big round of applause. Here comes Peter Aguero.
All right. So for 2 summers in college, I drove an Italian ice truck in Piscataway, New Jersey. It was the best job I ever had. I drive around at 4 miles an hour. There was no boss in sight, and I was selling happiness to children. It was a great job, except for the last day, and even the last day wasn't so bad, except for the last 20 minutes. The company was called Super Cool Italian Ice, and it was located on the outskirts of New Brunswick, New Jersey, in Industrial Park, behind a sign. It was a building, and it was behind a sign that inexplicably said Jacoby Appliance Parts. Super Cool Italian Ice was run completely by men of Middle Eastern descent, and the boss was a guy named Muhammad, who introduced himself to me as Mark. And it was, 1998. So Mark had a truck licensed to sell in each of the surrounding towns, and he gave me Piscataway. Piscataway was a little small blue-collar town, a lot of families, a lot of kids and stuff. It was pretty good. If you've never driven an Italian ice truck or an ice cream truck or whatever, it's all a matter of looking at the map, and it's all math, trying to figure out the way you can hit the most amount of neighborhoods without doing a lot of backtracking. I did that, and I was very successful at it. The first summer, well, you laugh all you want. I was, at that point in my life, anything was a success. So I really enjoyed this job for that first summer, and I would just I'd drop the transmission down in the second, and I'd wedge my foot against the brake, and I'd light up a spliff, and I'd just kind of do my thing, and I would kind of zone out to the music. There was like a MIDI file of The Entertainer playing over and over. Over and over. It was almost like after the second week, I would kind of lapse into like a Zen meditative state, and everything was cool. So that first summer went well, and Mark invited me to come back and work for the next summer. So that brings us to the story. On the 4th of July in the year of our Lord, 1999, while you guys were going to a barbecue, I was going to the icy truck yard, and I picked up my truck and I went out, and it was a slow day at first because people were having parties and they had their own desserts. But the real action was at the high school, Piscataway High School. They were going to have fireworks, and there was going to be a classic car show, and there was going to be bands playing and stuff. So about 5 o'clock, I rolled up into the parking lot and staked out a spot. And there was already a Mr. Softy and a Good Humor and another local guy named Little Jimmy. But it was all good. There was going to be plenty of business. So I kind of chilled out and waited for the people to come. When the people started to show up, I looked out my window and I saw another Super Cool Italian ice truck pull into the parking lot. And it was driven by a guy named Aziz. Aziz was a little 40-year-old spark plug of a guy. He looked like a bulldog on steroids, and he was so angry. And so I went up to his truck when he parked, and I said, "Hey, man." He was smiling, and he went to shake my hand. I refused his handshake, which is real bad to do, apparently, in Middle Eastern society. So he went to shake my hand, I refused, and I said, "What's going on, man? This isn't South Plainfield," because he was supposed to work in South Plainfield. When I looked over like this, his reaction was his face turned to a scowl, and he reached down and he punched me right in the face. I'd never been punched in the face before, so it was kind of shocking. And my first reaction was blind rage, and I went to open up the door to pull him out and beat him to death. And he started reaching under the seat like he had a gun. I was like, "Fuck, this is not worth it." The cops came over, and they kicked us both out. So Aziz went his way, and I went my way. But my way happened to pass by a park near the high school, so I saw a bunch of families laying out blankets and stuff. So I was like, all right, I'll go here. And I found a cop over there. He said, "Aren't you the guy that got kicked out?" I said, "Here's a free cherry lemon." And he said, "All right, park on the grass over there." So it was a success. So for the next 4 hours, it was purgatory. I was bent over in it was essentially an '89 Chevy van with a white cap on top of it and a cooler full of dry ice in the back. And for 4 hours, I was bent over, scooping and scooping and scooping and scooping. And the light fell out of the sky, and then I heard fireworks, and I didn't see them. I could just kind of vaguely see the shadows coming. It was the weirdest 4th of July I ever had. And then it was about 11 o'clock at night, and things were all done. My hands were cramped up in a rictus, like I was, doing the Sanford and Son impression. And then I counted out my pile of dollar bills. I made $800, which was my take was like 250. So I took my truck, I went back to the yard, and it's like 11 o'clock. I counted out. And Mark was really happy with my take for the day, and he gave me an extra $50 and told me to take the next day off. And I said, Mark, your boy Aziz punched me in the face. And Mark said, you can't let a man get away with something like that. Next time, hit him back. This was my boss. So while I was contemplating that, I got in my car, my Oldsmobile, and I went to drive off. But it didn't have a reverse gear, so I put it in neutral and pushed it back like Fred Flintstone and got out of the parking spot and went on my way. As I was leaving the parking spot, Aziz was pulling in, and our eyes met. And he was saying something I couldn't make out, but I think I saw fat was one of the parts that he was saying. I drove away, though, but I got 300 yards down the road, and then all of a sudden, something snapped. And I turned around, and I came back, and I threw my car in the park, and I jumped out, and I said, that's it. One way or another, we finish this right now, old man. Because apparently I'm a samurai. Aziz starts digging around in the back of his ice cream truck, and Mark comes over to me to calm me down. Another dude goes over to calm him down, and then Aziz turns around and shoves the 2 guys into me. He comes at me like the hand of God, and I feel a hit on my head, and a hit back here, another hit there, and my vision clears. He's got a hammer, and he's beating me in the head with a hammer. So I picked him up underneath his crotch like I was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and I threw him down on the asphalt parking lot, and he's on his back, and he's swinging at my nuts with the hammer. And I'm not going to put up with that shit, so I went to grab it, but I overbalanced, and my thumb slipped into his mouth, and he bit through my right thumbnail into the meat of my thumb, and he held on like a little fucking bulldog. And I took my left hand, and I put it on his throat, and I put my considerable weight behind it, and I started choking him. And I was choking him until he stopped moving. And then I still kept choking him, because you can't let another man do this to you. Just then, 4 dudes pulled me off of Aziz. 3 other guys picked him up under the armpits and dragged him off into the dark, leaving 2 little trails where his heels, like he's in a cartoon. I got in my car, and I drove back to my empty apartment. I ordered Chinese food and put ice on my swollen, cut face. But that was the best goddamn job I ever had.